Hello, we're here with Christina Lekati, social engineering trainer and consultant at Risk GmbH. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Philip. Great to be here.
How's everything been for you during the lockdown and pandemic?
A little bit more intense, interesting as well. We had a lot to learn. There was a lot of proof about what works and what doesn't.
I like that. We'll get into that. We'll get into that because it's very interesting to see what the pandemic has and has not exposed. Perhaps it's brought a lot to the forefront that we've been expecting. And before we get into that, could you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your background? Because you come at cyber risk from a slightly different perspective.
That's correct. I have a background and a degree in psychology. However, because my father was always working in cybersecurity, I got a lot of influence from him. I learned a lot from him. I grew up hearing about this field and falling in love with it. So particularly about social engineering, and therefore I studied psychology to better understand how these things work, and then immersed myself into cybersecurity. I have been working for the past now few years on training, on consulting, and on needs and vulnerabilities assessments on the human level of cybersecurity.
Okay, I like it. And people watching probably think, oh, psychology, that's all linguistic programming, and they think that they too will rush out and do an NLP course. But it's not that, is it? It's something a bit different.
No, it is not just about that. It is about also what motivates people, how people take decisions, whether these are to promote and help security and enable security, or whether that is falling victim and allowing somebody else to manipulate them and practically make them enable an attack.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a lot of more psychology going in on why people do what they do and how you can motivate them and drive specific behaviors that help security instead of compromise it.
I see. Okay. No, that's good. It permeates all levels of security, no matter whether it's physical or cyber. Whether or not they are two disciplines, that's another debate. So what about specifically during this pandemic and the lockdown? What have you seen that's new?
The techniques used are not new. In fact, they have been the same throughout ages, through the time that it was called just conning people, up until now where technology is involved and we have social engineering, the principles have remained the same. What has actually come out is how much training has been effective. For example, we saw very clearly that organizations that had invested in training now saw that training paying off, because suddenly employees were not in a protected environment, they were not in a company, they were on their own. And what you do on your own is completely different to what you do when you are in a controlled environment of an organization. So the companies that just had a 10-minute video training on social engineering for their employees obviously had problems with security. It's 10 minutes of a video awareness training is merely informing. It's not even considered proper awareness. It just doesn't cover. But people and organizations who had invested in training and did it properly, and also simulation tests, had it much better, and they were sleeping better at night.
Okay. So there's definitely disparity in those who could pivot and those who couldn't and who weren't prepared. But hasn't there always been a bit of a challenge to get a corporate employee to take business information security seriously? Because it's not their information. So no matter how much training, hasn't that always been a bit of an issue? Obviously, kidnap and ransom, that very much applies to them. But vishing and phishing, how can you make that relevant and stick in their minds?
First of all, of course, it depends on the needs of each organization and the size as well, because different approaches are required for larger organizations. However, it is extremely important to make it relevant to them. It's not about what you say only. It's not about the do's and don'ts. Actually, it's not at all about the do's and don'ts. This never sticks. But it's about making it relevant to them. For example, a lot of times we do an open source intelligence analysis before a training so that we can see what types of vulnerabilities they specifically had and what types of attacks could be more likely to happen to them. So this helps a lot more for an employee to say, that this is something that could potentially happen to me. On the other hand, it's also about really bringing the message across that security is a shared effort, that they have a responsibility to protect the assets that they handle, and that if an attack gets enabled, they will also have repercussions in terms of getting some of their files lost or who knows what.
Okay.
It affects them practically.
So what have you seen? Are there any funny or exciting exploits that people have done through the Corona crisis? Things that are laughable or things that are effective? I don't know if there's anything you can share with us.
We haven't laughed very much with the exploits lately, but surely there is a lot of pretext circulating around COVID. And especially now that we have people getting back to work, we have new pretexts that practically might say things like phishing emails, that might say things like, oh, here is a list of the employees that are supposed to get a COVID test before coming to the office. And this is when they're going to get it done. Please open that malicious Excel file. There are a lot more pretexts around COVID. But funny, I haven't seen something funny. I wish.
That was me fishing. I was fishing for something funny because, sometimes you get these laughable exploits which are so silly that they might just work.
Yeah, but they're really classic right now. I think everybody's...
No worries. No, that's good. So what's next for you? Are you remaining in Germany, or you're doing everything virtually, working from home?
We are remaining in Germany. We have smaller classes. We have adapted the in-person classes to what is required now in terms of safety measures because of the pandemic. Distance, fewer people, bigger spaces, all these things. And of course, we have adapted and we also have video trainings. However, everything is tailored, there's nothing out of the box. We talk with our clients to see what they need and what is best for them. So it depends on them in the end.
And what about Germany specifically? Because I know that sometimes approaches to security within Germany are slightly different. Is there any appetite for one type of security training over another, or would you say that actually doesn't matter anymore? It's global.
Actually, there is a slight switch towards video trainings right now in terms of demand, but I cannot say something concretely because the situation is very fluid right now. So we don't know if this is going to stick or is going to change. However, Germans do love in-person communication, and I do as well. So we will see how this evolves.
Perfect. Well, I look forward to seeing you in person at one of our next events. Of course, we have lots of virtual things coming up too, but I'm looking forward.
One way or another, Felim, we will meet.
We will do it. We will do it.
Yeah.
Well, Christina, it's been lovely talking to you, and yes, have a great day.
Likewise. Have a very good day. Thank you.